everybody. It's been a great weekend. Have a good time. We'll see you. What? What are you upset about? What's wrong? Oh. Well, I'm looking around. I don't see him. He's not wrapped up under the tree. He's not hiding under the mistletoe waiting for Rob Benedict to walk by unawares so he can sneak a peck at Rob Benedict. So it begs the question that I'm forced to ask, where's Misha? I'll be honest, I don't know. Where's Misha? Buddy, seriously, I don't know. Where's Misha? Try me, dude, I don't know. Where's Misha? Honestly, Robbie, no idea. But perhaps when he ran the marathon and he got to the finish line, he decided he wanted to just keep going and make the best time he possibly could for circling the earth. He kept on running. He ran up the hill and down the hill and through the water and all the way to another town. He ran around, he joined the circus, and now he's a circus clown. That's Misha! Buddy, honestly, I don't know. Where's Misha? Dude, seriously, I don't know. Where's Misha? I don't know, I'll look like safe, but I don't know. Where's Misha? I don't know. Well, I just got a report that he just hit the can. This could be a long time. We better really ban because Misha's in the bathroom doing what he does, and Lord knows that can take any amount of time. Could be number one, could be number two, could be any combination of both those numbers. So, we better be ready for a long, long wait. I'll be honest, buddy, this is not going to be so great. Where's Misha? I think I just told you. He's in the can. In the can. Where's Misha? He's in the can, probably. Where's Misha? Dropping a deuce. Where's Misha? Well, lay around pipe. I'm gonna be back here and wait for him, so he knows that we're waiting and we're ready. He picks a fine time to go to the bathroom, and he knows it's time for the panel. That's what happens when you're kind of famous. You can take a poop when you want to. Let's just hope it washes. Not like the famous and rich who have to wait. We have to go to the bathroom. Sit down and shut up. Nobody go to the bathroom until we say it's time to go to the bathroom. You, Richard Spade. You, Rob Benedict. You, band. You will go pee and poo when we tell you to go pee and poo, and not a moment before. But that Misha, he can ruin Christmas morning with his dumps. Nobody cares. He's micro-famous. He can poop and pee whenever he wants. It's one of the perks. But still, he's out here forced to ask the question publicly, where's Misha? Well, now we know. Where's Misha? Probably watching. Now we know.
It's really taking a long time. I'm thinking it is a number two.
I'll tell you what, it's definitely number two, and it's a healthy number two, and he's going to have a real spring in his step. Guys, I got an interesting little factoid for you. Want to hear it?
Yeah.
Here's Misha. Here's Misha.
Thank you guys so much. That is all the time we have for today.
You know, Misha didn't realize for the longest time that he actually had a theme song. He just assumed Where Misha was his song, because he's always late. So one time we did You're My Angel, and you're like, oh, that's my song. Oh. Two marathon runners hugging.
Did you have a poop?
Oh, yeah.
I came directly from the airport to here just now, and it was like, my driver, he got really excited when I told him I was like, I have to be on stage at It's 6:15. He's like, well, we're a half hour away. I'll try. And then it was like we were in a Fast and Furious movie. He was just like going around the other cars. He was like, you're lucky, he was a young guy. He's like, you're lucky you didn't get one of the other drivers. They're too old to do this. And I was like, well, let's suspend judgment until we arrive alive at our destination.
Well, you made it. Mystery solved. And by the way, you look good after a healthy poop. You really know how to straighten your stuff. You wear it well. Ladies and gentlemen, Misha Collins. I have a friend. What?
I have a friend who, Rich was just reminding me of this, who has a 6-year-old daughter, and she has kept a written record of all of her daughter's poops. For 6 years. And I wonder, is that the kind of thing that she goes back and references? Oh, I remember that one.
Maybe there's pictures.
What do you do with that?
How does she know about that?
How does she know about them all? Oh, you think the child might be pooping in secret. My God, she would be so mad. That's how the 6-year-old gets back at her mom. The bushes by the driveway. So, well, I mean, we're talking about children, so I'll tell you a couple of things about my kids very briefly, and then we can talk about something else. Last night I was shooting Supernatural, I just started 6 sentences before finishing one. I'm still a little rattled from the drive. We went over like this overpass. We're on the highway. We go over this overpass in like a few seconds before we go. He's like, "We're gonna hit a bump." I was like, "We're on the highway. Like, if going over an overpass is gonna make me hit my head on the ceiling, we're going too fast." So I'll shoot late, and then I'll typically commute back across the border to where I live in Northwest Washington, and then go home and go to sleep, and then sometimes it's like 3 o'clock in the morning when I get home, and the kids, they don't seem to have, there's a word for it, empathy. And so they will come in and, well, first of all, they come into the bed as soon as they can in the middle of the night. And so we go through this whole charade of like, we put them to bed in their bed, and then by the time we're ready to fall asleep, they've already come in crying about something or other. And then they snuggle in with us. And I was like, this is it. I'm done. Can't do it anymore. Everybody, grown-ups only in this bed until 6:30 in the morning. That's the new rule. And we lock the door. And the kids, in the middle of the night, they come up, they rattle the door, and they're like, fuck, it's locked. And they go back to bed. And all it took was locking the door. It's so amazing. 8 years of suffering, and it was a simple question of just locking the door. But last night, not last night, the night before last, Mason started crying. And so Vicky got up to go to the kids' room and console Mason. And West took that opportunity to sneak in. Unseen in the dark, snuck in. And then he came in and he cuddled with me, and I assumed that Vicky had said, like, just, you get out of here, like, I gotta put Mason back to sleep or something. And then Vicky came back about a half hour later and found West in the bed, and she was like, what are you doing here? And he looked at her and he said, that was so great. And then he left, like, he just got his, like, little cheater snuggle, and then left again. But you have to watch them like a hawk. And one of the things that Vicky did when we were trying to figure out how, before we figured out the genius solution of locking the door, one of the things that we were trying to do is incentivize them to stay in the room. So it's like, if you wake up early, that's fine. We have some special toys that are just for when you wake up early. And Vicky got them a couple of special toys. This is not a joke, what I'm about to tell you. It's totally true. And it shows kind of a lack of strategic thinking on my wife's part. She bought them a plug-in, amplified karaoke machine. For if they wake up early and don't want to disturb us. And I woke up, like, I thought we were being raided by the police or something. I didn't know what was going on. I was like, what the fuck is that? Okay. Okay, so a couple more things that are just popping into my head. One, this is kind of a slightly stale story, but it's related to another story, so I'm going to tell it anyway. So we, in Washington State, there's a few places you can go where they have like sexy lingerie coffee shops. So it's like a drive-through coffee place. You go and like you get your coffee, but it's from like a barista who's barely wearing anything, and it's from Fredericks of Hollywood. And we drove through in the minivan with Wes and Mason, Atticus and Phoebe, and they're like the best friend pod. So Phoebe and Mason are best friends, and Atticus and Wes are best friends. And Atticus said, "Why is she wearing a bathing suit?" And Wes said, "I don't think she's wearing, I don't think she, why is she wearing a bathing suit? Is she going swimming?" And Wes said, I don't think she is. I think she's just showing off. And then he said, "But we are close to the ocean." And Phoebe, Mason's best friend, the other day, we went skiing with all the kids, and we were trudging a really long way because I had misread the map. And we were walking. It was quite cold out, and I said, "Let's go across the parking lot like this. It's a shortcut." We walked a little bit longer, and Phoebe said, "I don't think this is a shortcut. This is a cold cut." All right, that's enough of that stuff. I'm sorry for digressing. Yes, you tell me a story.
Hi.
Hi.
So I was wondering if you had any favorite holiday traditions with your friends and family, and if so, what are they?
Oh my God, what a great question. Do you have family holiday traditions that you like?
I do. We go to a craft fair every year at a historical town in Christmas, Florida.
Wow, that really sounds appropriate for the season. And you like it when you do this?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah. I look forward to it all year. That's a good question. I'm one of those people that like all of the trappings of the holidays, and I'm a traditionalist as well. Like I like to decorate the tree. I like to decorate the tree properly. I like to, on Thanksgiving, I like to make all of the traditional Thanksgiving dishes, and when people try to stray from that, I'm like, why are you making that? I like the stockings. My kids are just at that point where they're starting to, well, my son is just at that point where he's starting to wonder. And I had lied to him for some time about finding treasure maps, and eventually he kind of put it all together, because it seemed like the only time that him and his friends would ever find treasure was when I was with them. He's like, that seems a little suspicious, Dad. And also, you also seem to know when we're not gonna find treasure. Because I'll be like, I just don't think there's any treasure over there, guys. And I've gotten kind of lazy. And so we have this tradition in the house where we hide an advent calendar, and sorry, the elves hide the advent calendar. Kids, you're not watching on stage, are you? So the elves hide an advent calendar every night when the kids are sleeping, and then they find it, they open it up, and it's like really great. And sometimes the elves write notes explaining why they forgot the night before to leave it. And they kind of believe it. Like one day I came home and I found West, he had a hammer, and he had broken a good sort of head-size, child's head-size hole in the drywall. And I was like, West, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm looking for the elves. Because I told him the elves lived in the walls. And I, at that point, had to do a 180 and be like, all right, well, let me know what you find. But he's starting to get, so I eventually had to, he asked me point blank, he looked at me in the eyes and he said, are you the one that's been hiding the treasures? And I said, why would you say that? And then he said, basically it's because it's obvious that you hiding the treasures. And I said, okay, yes it is. And he was like, well, Dad, you're really good at that. I'm not going to tell my friends. So he immediately took on the mantle of liar, because he learned it from me. I'm making the story longer than it needs to be. Well, one really great Hollywood, not Hollywood. I was up shooting late, I'm sorry. Okay.
Holiday.
Tradition. That I really loved as a kid was something my grandfather did. My grandfather was, he was very energetic and very pragmatic and not at all sentimental. And I always loved those qualities about him. And one of the things that he pointed out was that Santa Claus was traveling around the world. He had this incredible sleigh. It was filled with all of the toys for all of the children in the entire world. And he reasoned that, yeah, it's great, you can wait for him, be patient, see what he might parse out to us, what little morsels he might scatter in our direction. Or, at the base of the fireplace, we could put milk and cookies in the middle of a giant bear trap. And catch him, dismember his body, and hide the remains, and then take all the toys for ourselves. And he started doing that around the time I was 5. And I have to say, as a 5-year-old who was already starting to develop a conscience, I was like, this sounds like a great idea. And every year, the milk and cookies would be gone, and there'd be this little piece of red fabric stuck in the closed claws. Like somehow he always got away. But that was a really nice tradition that I thought was sweet. Hi.
Hi. If you had total creative freedom to pick the plot of an episode, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. Body swap, musical, and Trump turns out to be the devil. All of them mashed up into one episode. How about you?
Good. I think I would just have all 3 of the boys, you, Dean, and Sam, just in the bunker, not hunting or anything, just doing nothing.
Just doing nothing. So you're not a writer. I love the idea of like you coming into the Warner Brothers president's suite, being like, listen, I've got to pitch you a story. I want to pitch you this idea. I think you're going to be crazy. 3 guys in a windowless bunker. They don't do anything. It's never been done before. I wonder what the ratings would be on that. I mean, that could be a real a real game changer in terms of production costs. You know, just set up a GoPro and have us sit on the couch and watch old episodes of Supernatural. Or porn, right? Good point. Good to watch whatever. Thank you. And speaking of which, my next guest, hi. How are you?
So far, my favorite episode of Supernatural has been Scooby Natural.
Ah, yes, that's such a great episode. Did you watch the other ones too?
A little bit.
Yeah, don't watch those other ones. They're too scary. But Scooby Natural is pretty good. Scooby Natural was actually the Scooby Natural is the only episode that I let my kids watch, and I didn't even let them watch the whole thing because there's some pretty gruesome stuff even in that episode. But they seemed to like it. They didn't understand what was going on, but. What are we going to talk about? What's your name?
J-Lo.
Jayla. I like that name. I also like your sweater.
Thank you.
It says elf on it. What is your position on elves? Pro elf?
Yeah.
Yeah. We figured out in our house the other day that so we have this advent calendar that the elves who live in the walls hide. And we did the math and we figured out that it's big enough, it's made out of wood and it's, you know, a little bit heavy. We think it probably takes 4 elves to move it around. How big do you think an elf is?
I don't know.
It's hard to say. Do you have a question or just that comment?
How was the experience of being a voice of a cartoon in Scooby Natural?
It was great. It was great. It was kind of funny because people like me don't know this, but it takes an entire year to make an animated episode of TV. So we had to record our voices. We got the script and we had to record our voices a year before that episode aired, because it took them that long to draw all the pictures and make everything work out. So it was good for a number of reasons. One, normally when we shoot an episode, we have to shoot for 8 days, somewhere between 12 and 14 hours a day. And for Scooby Natural, we had to shoot or record for 2 hours. And so it was really, really convenient for us in that respect. And then the other thing that was fun about it was us actors that are in that episode, we grew up watching Scooby Natural. So we knew all those characters. Whatever. God, you're so nitpicky. I'm tired. Cut me a little slack. We grew up watching Scooby-Doo, so we know all of those characters and those voices, and so for us to get to see ourselves mixed in with that was just super, super cool. And when that episode was just about to come out, they did a special screening on a huge movie theater screen in the same theater where they host the Oscars, which is kind of a big deal if you're an actor. I'm sort of hopeful this year that I'll get a nod from the Oscars. It was just really cool to be in that theater and watching it on the big screen with a big audience. And it felt like one of those super special moments on this show. There's been a few times on this show where we've done things that just felt really cool and really strange and really exciting, and that was one of them. So overall, very positive experience. Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
I had a conversation with Andrew our showrunner afterwards, and I was like, this was so great, this was so great, we have to do other crossover shows, and he's like, we're already pitching stuff, and I was like, I want to pitch you something. What about if we did a crossover, Supernatural and Real Housewives of Beverly Hills? Wouldn't that be great? He didn't like the idea. Hi.
Hi. So my question is, what did you do to get into the mindset of playing Lucifer for season 11?
So I went back and watched a lot of what Mark Pellegrino had done. And then the morning before I started shooting for that character, I actually went over to his Airbnb in Vancouver, where he was staying. And him and his wife helped me go through the scenes from that episode. And I cheated, basically. Yeah. It was fun though. It's not something that I've ever done before. Like, how would you do this? And then he would show me, I would do something like this. And I thought, okay, got it. And he told me that his inner monologue, whenever he's in a scene with another character, is either, when he's looking at someone else, he's either like, I want to have sex with them, or I want to kill them. And he's always trying to figure out which is which I thought was very helpful. Makes you think, doesn't it? Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
From a lot of your interviews and everything, you say that you're an occasional knitter, and I wanted to know if you had finished or have started any projects recently.
I have. I've started. I'm not finished. I was just noticing yesterday. My kids are getting into finger knitting, which I didn't even know was a thing. But they like wrap yarn around their fingers and use that as a way to knit. What they produce is basically just a string. But they'll do it for hours and hours and hours. And one of them asked me for yarn, and I was like, I got yarn. I got a whole basket of yarn in my office. And I went and looked, and I was like, oh, I started that about 6 months ago. About 4 rows of a hat. So I am really making a lot of progress.
That's okay. I've been working on a blanket for about a year.
You've been working on a blanket? Well, that's ambitious. Is it for a human?
Yes, it's for my sister for Christmas.
How are you close to done?
I'm about halfway done.
So you've been working for a year. You have less than 2 weeks to
I
finish
took
it.
about a 3-month break, though.
Hey, you're kind of cramming, huh? You shouldn't be standing in this line. Are you able to bring it in for the panels?
Yeah, I've been reading through the panels.
Okay. Is that annoying for the people next to you? What?
I don't know, like I didn't
Oh,
hear
that's
you.
fine. I'm sure it's fine. Yeah. Hi. Hi.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
So if we were I'm sorry, okay. So if we were gonna do another fun, comedic type of episode, like The French Mistake, where good things could maybe happen to the boys, what would your idea be?
I feel like this is a leading question, and you have an idea of something that would be, no, nothing, fun, good, positive.
I don't know, maybe they could take Castiel to a carnival.
I think we've actually generated 2 really good episodic storyline ideas today. Sam, Dean, and Cass do nothing. Sam, Dean, and Cass go to a carnival. I went to a fair with my 2 friends, Darius and Dave, many years ago. It was like the Massachusetts State Fair. It was a big fair.
The Big E?
The Big E. Oh my God, how do you know that? What? Oh, you're Massholes. Okay. And so we actually happened just to be driving north on Route 91, and we were like, oh wait, there's a sign for the biggie. Well, you know what? Let's go. We had between us $4. Like we had no money, and so we went up to the gate at the biggie, and we were like, we don't have any money, but we will sing you a song if you let us in. And so we sang this sort of country song, and they let us in. And then everywhere we went inside, where it was like we wanted to do like the little thing to throw the darts or whatever, it was like, well, we don't have tickets, but we will sing you a song. And so we'd sing a song. we got pretzels, we got hot dogs, we got into the smash up derby. We got to have the full experience. And all we had to do was sing sort of a few bars of this song over and over again. I'm not going to sing it for you because it's a harmony and it's much better as a trio. But next time the three of us are together on stage, I promise I will sing. Thanks for that idea.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Hi. My question is, what's the strangest, coolest, or weirdest fan art you've ever seen or looked at?
Wait, the strangest, sorry, what?
What's the strangest, weirdest, or coolest fan art you've ever seen or received?
Well, I mean, I actually got in trouble recently for revealing what somebody had given me in a photo line. I'm not going to tell you what that is, but it was small and silver and shaped like one of the spades in a deck of cards. And so that was odd.
Again. Why?
There was a really well-produced book of photographs that was all cats dressed up as the characters of the show. The lighting was impeccable. The cats were excellent actors. And they were all in like these kind of domestic and romantic poses with one another. And I do have to say that when I first joined the show, I didn't expect to see stuff like that. Every once in a while, someone will bring up a drawing or a painting or something of my countenance, my face, and I'll just look like some sort of horrific snaggletooth monster. And I drew this for you. Oh my God, it's so annoying. I love it so much. I know just where I'm going to put this over my bed. Thank you. Have you seen any strange fan art?
I have, because I draw, so when I draw portraits, I have to look for...
I hope, by the way, that you weren't one of the people that I'm talking about. That's really terrible.
No, but when I draw portraits, I look for reference pictures of other people's work.
Uh-huh.
So I've seen some strange stuff.
Oh. Like what?
Some on the R scale and some on like the G scale, so it really just depends.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Some on the X scale?
Not good.
What do you guys think? How many of you guys are still on Tumblr?
Nope.
So, not that many. I mean, I think probably 4 years ago, if I had asked that, half of the room would have raised their hands. But they recently banned adult content. And I can only assume that they're just trying to get the supernatural stuff off. They could have just said, we're no longer allowing supernatural fan art on the site. Because I think that's what they're going for. But that's right, you guys can start your own website. Okay, good talk. Hi.
Hello. First, I want to say thank you for my wife. She went through 2 major heart surgeries this year, and you really inspired her a lot.
My goodness. And has she made it out the other side?
She's in the audience back there.
Yes! Congratulations.
The question that we have is, when you were introduced earlier in the show as the first warrior of heaven, you've been my favorite character since then, but recently you haven't won a fist fight in like 4 seasons. I'm wondering, are we going to see a return of Fearsome Warrior of Heaven, or are you kind of infomercial guy forever now?
What did happen to Cass? Dean rubbed off on him? Is that what you're saying? I don't understand where, because he's supposedly at full power at this point in the storyline, except he doesn't have his wings, we know that, but still, like, come on, man. Make an effort. It's kind of tough to explain, and I can't. I'm sorry. I wish I could. We have we're shooting right now episode. I'm not going to tell you what you know. We're shooting episode 300. And an angel that we knew long ago is being resurrected, and it just reminded me of the journey that Cass has been on and the journey that we've all been on in terms of introducing angels to the show. When I got on the show, I was the first angel, and I established, by virtue of that fact, I established what angels are like, you know? Like, that's how they are. Angels are just a little bit, they're misfits who haven't been around humans much, and they're socially awkward, and they don't understand that reference. And then immediately after my character was introduced, other angels came on the show. Other actors played those angels, actors who didn't bother to watch what I had done and didn't care. And so they just acted like regular people, and then all of a sudden I was just the fucked up angel. Which is not fair. I know that that's not really what you're talking about, but I just had to vent a little. Yeah, I don't know why Cass is not a better fighter these days. I think one thing that has been sort of plaguing the show for a long time is that it's not good for the story. If Sam and Dean's ally, Castiel, is like super powerful and can just snap his fingers and win any fight. So for a long time, Cass was getting hobbled in some way or another, like he would lose his grace, or he'd become human, or he'd go crazy, or he'd become Lucifer. Like he went through all of these iterations that made him not a great asset to the boys. And then eventually, I think the writers were like, oh, okay, Cass now is just, I think he's just tired. So he gives up easy now. And that's where we are. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. Go sit down. Hi.
Hello. I just want to start off by saying that you make an excellent tree topper.
Oh, why, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Oh, wow. I just saw that in the frame.
How's that feel?
My question for you is, what color would you choose to describe your character in earlier seasons, and how do you think it's changed since the beginning?
What, sorry? The hell are you talking about?
What color would you choose to describe your character in early seasons?
Beige, blue, black, and white?
Like...
And then maybe later on, slightly darker brown, blue, black, and white?
Like yellow being happier, red being angry.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't speak color. are we supposed to know as like a cultural vocabulary what colors mean?
Yeah.
Yellow is happy? Isn't that urine? Where the fuck did this come from?
Modern schooling.
Is this a Florida thing? Like,
Common Core.
so do you go around and suss people out and you're like, that's kind of a yellow person?
That's exactly what I do.
Is that what you do?
That's exactly what I do.
What color are you?
I believe I would be more of an orange because I have mixtures between red and yellow every now and then.
Our president is orange too. I feel like this is going great.
Amazing.
Okay. So is this okay? So you're yellow. You're orange because you're yellow and red. And yellow means happy, and red means angry.
Yeah.
Mean.
It varies.
Okay. I noticed that actually since you got the microphone, you went more from yellow to red. Yeah, it's angry.
I got a little passionate.
Like this. How do I fix this? I am also, I should admit, I'm not also a huge fan of the zodiac. You know, when people are like, oh, what's your sign? I'm a leprechaun. I don't know. What's your sign?
What's that?
What's your sign?
What's my sign? I'm
Yeah.
an Aquarius.
Aquarius. Orange Aquarius. That's interesting. I don't know what it means, but it's interesting.
I can ask you a different question.
Okay, great.
So earlier during one of the panels, and I won't say who mentioned it, but someone compared you to an imp.
An imp?
And I was wondering how...
Who? This is making me feel very red. Who said that?
And I was just wondering how you think that you do compare to one?
Can we start screening the questions from now on? Imp, huh? Imp? So an imp is somebody who kind of like does mischievous things, right?
Correct.
Is there any other attributes to an imp that I should know about before I answer the question? Why? They're tiny. Great. So in television, typically, actors are never more than 3 feet tall. Everyone is tiny on television. I remember when I used to, guest star on things. I was always getting the direction, Misha, can you just stand up when you're doing it? Because I would be like talking to the other actors like this because they were so tiny. And in Supernatural, we have this weird situation where there's somebody who is a disformed giant. And Jensen is pretty tall too. Like, Jensen's, way above average for actor height as well. And I'm a reasonably tall individual. But I look like a fucking imp. And so, oh my God, I wish I had taken a photo of it. I'd show it to you right now. 2 days ago, we were shooting. And we were shooting on this set that it's not the Empty. It was me and Jared. It's not the Empty, but the set was actually the same set as the Empty. So it was just this like blank black space. And Phil Sabricio was directing this scene, because it was an added scene for an earlier episode. And he had this idea of doing what's called, he was like, I want to do a low and wide shot. So you use a wide angle lens and shoot from down low. Basically, when you hear the director saying, like, we're going to use a wide angle lens, an actor goes, oh. Because they just make you look awful. Like, that's the only reason to use a wide angle lens, is to make an actor look like a monster. And so we shot a few takes, and then somehow there was a question like, did that work? And so every once in a while, like maybe every 10th take on set, they'll be like, did we get that? Did that work? Let's do playback. And then they play back the video of what we just shot. They play back the video of what we just shot. And I happened to glance at the monitor, and it was like this weird forced perspective thing. For the entire take, I looked like I would fit in Jared's pocket. And I like, for a moment, it occurred to me, maybe I could just like grab that chip out of the hard drive and destroy it. Because like, it will haunt me forever. And because there's no other reference points, all black, you just see tiny me and enormous Jared. Enormous Jared with his tiny little imp friend. It was really tough to look at. So, in some respects, I feel rather impish on the show. I also like to cause trouble. Maybe that's a factor. Who said this? I'll kill them. I'll cut their legs off.
What was the question?
Never mind. Please take your seat. Orange girl, hi.
Hi. My question is, what variation of your character did you enjoy playing the most?
Well, I've loved all of my weird, multiple personality versions of Cass, but I actually really relished playing Lucifer. I think part of there's two reasons that I liked it. One, I felt like Mark had created a really cool template, and it was a fun thing to start with as a starting point. And then the other thing was that it actually lasted for a long time. A lot of my versions of Cass have been pretty short-lived, like only a couple of episodes. It was nice to get to do something for a longer stretch. So, yeah, there's my answer. I actually answered a serious question, or a question seriously.
Yeah.
Thanks. Hi.
Hey there. So I wanted to know, other than Supernatural, name one show or play or movie that would be your dream job that you would want to be on, and which character would you be?
What did he say? Beth and Mike?
Magic Mike.
Oh, Magic Mike? Those guys were pretty hunky. This is a good question. Elf? The imp? To be honest with you, I've actually sort of reflected on this question lately, and I think that I would like to do something totally different. Like, something, shirt off, is that what you said? I think I'd like to do something like, like what Anthony Bourdain was doing, or something like that. Like, I'd love to spend time just exploring the world and talking to people, and maybe unveiling the strange underbelly of various different cultures or communities or something like that. I like the idea of at least taking a break from being on a series when Supernatural is over. Because I'll be in my 60s and can you believe that it's been going so long? We were just, Jared and Jensen and I were just briefly reflecting on how when the show started, and the characters would pose as FBI agents, it was like, please. No one in their right mind would believe that someone that young could be an FBI agent. It's ridiculous. And now when we do it, it's like, I don't think FBI agents are that old. Okay, thanks. Hi.
Sorry. Hi. My daughter Shannon, who is an aspiring author, would love to get some poetry book recommendations and where she can find your work as she enjoys what you post on social media.
Well, that is a very well-read question. Thank you. Your daughter is an aspiring poet or novelist?
Author, too.
Oh, hi. Do you always have your mom speak for you? Oh, she got picked. And you couldn't pretend to be her? Mom, give me your badge and your glasses. There are a lot of poets that I love. I think my favorite poet is still Mary Oliver. I just love her. I've been working on poetry lately, to be honest with you. I've been writing poems. It's a very strange thing to be doing in this day and age, it seems, but I like it and I don't care. So, I still am fantasizing about maybe at some point putting them together in something that has pages, which would be called a book. We'll see. Yeah. And you can find the poems that I have written that are out in the world if you ask your mom to get you the internet. And then you can find it from there. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi. My question to you is, if you were to ever get a tattoo, what would it be and why?
I would get a tattoo of a salmon.
Me too.
You too. Yeah, I think pretty much everyone says that. But I have a very specific reason and a very specific story, which is very long, and I'm sorry that you have to ask this question, but I was on a long bike ride with my friend Darius. And we've done a few of these rides where it's like a multi-day ride. And we were riding around the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State. This was probably 9 years ago. And we've been riding, we'd ridden maybe 90 miles that day, and we were pretty tired. It was late afternoon, and we came into the town of Forks, Washington, which is where they shot Twilight. Or where Twilight was set, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't care. So, riding through, and it's kind of a rundown town. We went to the one grocery store in town, and we were wandering the aisles, and we decided that we were gonna pitch our tents somewhere a little further down the road that night, and we're gonna have a fire, and we decided, let's get some fish. Let's get some nice fish and put it on fire. So we went in, and all the fish they had were like these little sort of gnarled, freeze-dried packets of fish. Everything was frozen. We asked this woman, do you know anywhere in town where we can get fresh fish? Because we're right on the ocean there, basically. It's like, there should be fish everywhere. And she said, no, there's nowhere in town. And then we started wandering around the store, feeling kind of dejected, and then she came up behind us, and she's like, I feel really bad. I lied to you. I was just at the food bank, and a fisherman had brought in all these big fillets of fresh salmon. And I don't even eat salmon, and it's in the trunk of my car. I should give it to you. Oh, and we were like, yes, you should. So we went out in the parking lot, we got this beautiful fillet of salmon, we put it on the back of our bikes, and then we rode on, and we went off the main road and up this mountain, and then we were going down the mountain, got to the peak, and we looked at each other and we're like, let's race. And so we went as fast as we could down this mountain, and forgot that we had saddlebags on the sides of our bikes, and got too close to each other and hit each other when we were going about 50 miles an hour, and had just this horrific fall. And I remember like rolling and rolling and rolling, and I kept checking and being like, I'm still alive, I'm still alive, I'm still alive. And I sort of peeled myself off the pavement when I finally stopped, and Darius was maybe 50 yards away in a ditch on the side of the road, and I yelled his name, and he wasn't moving, and I went over to him, and he was just covered in blood and not responsive. Finally, he woke up, but he had amnesia, he didn't know where we were, and long story short, this is one other thing that was really amazing. We stood there, we were on this little side road, we stood there, or I stood there and just sort of had my hand on his shoulder for about a half hour before a car came. And this old Lincoln Continental pulled up, and I got in the road in front of the guy and stopped it. And I was like, can you get us to a hospital or something? My friend can't remember what year it is, and he's bleeding badly. And the guy was like, no, sorry guys. I just went to Costco, he had all this toilet paper in his backseat, and he just drove away. What the fuck? So eventually we got to the firehouse and then to the hospital, and we spent the night there. And our fish was left on the side of the road. And we both spent a lot of time sort of processing the experience, and then decided that we had to be more grateful for the things that come into our lives. Like this amazing sort of gift from on high was given to us, and by being careless, we had squandered it. And so that fish came to symbolize something for me, like be grateful and appreciative for the good things that come along in your life, and don't squander them. And add to that the fact that for some reason, for the first 3 years of Mason's life, my daughter, my son called her Sockeye. And no one knows why. Like the moment he could put sounds together, he was like, Sockeye. So that's why I have a sockeye salmon tattoo. Hi.
Hi. I'm another mom who got picked instead of her daughter.
Oh.
And her question is, what was it like filming the episode The End in season 5 when you were playing a human version of Castiel?
Oh, the druggy version of Castiel. That was great. Are you a watcher of Supernatural, or are you just here by coercion?
I'm here with her now. She's turning 17, and so she's maybe watched 10 episodes.
Okay, so you don't know this. You don't know this episode.
Sorry, 10 seasons. Yes, I saw it, but I don't remember it like she does.
There's a scene in this episode where Castiel is sitting around cross-legged with a bunch of attractive young women, and he says to everyone, "Now it's time for everyone to go get washed up for the orgy." So your daughter is making you ask a question about that. How do you feel about that?
I feel like she shouldn't have done that, being only 16.
Very inappropriate question for you to be asking on behalf of your daughter.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. I hope you think about what you've done. Yes.
Hi. My question is, if you had to pick a cocktail to represent yourself and one for Cass, what would you pick for those?
One for each of the cast members? And one for me?
One for you and one for Castiel.
Oh, one for me and one for Cass. I think for me, it would probably be something like, I don't know, bourbon and ginger ale. I really like that. And Castiel would probably go for, like, a liquor store. We actually had a drinking scene recently that we shot, where Castiel was drinking, and we did a lot of takes where Cass just drains the whole bottle. Oh, actually, it aired. Yeah. So, I don't know if anyone remembers, but there was a point at which Cass is drinking straight out of the bottle. And I think maybe 4 times I drained that bottle. And I got to the point like, okay guys, I actually can't do this anymore because I'm gonna throw up. But they didn't really use the Cass draining the bottle bit, so it was all for nothing. I was well hydrated. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Misha. So early on in season 5, we see Cass in a desperate search for God, only to be disappointed. And in season 11, Chuck and Lucifer have a heart-to-heart, but there's no on-screen conversation between Chuck and Cass. How do you think that conversation should have gone?
You know, it's interesting because I think that in a way, God is father to all of the angels. But unless you're one of the archangels who was there from the very beginning and one of the favored children, I don't think that there was ever a close relationship between the angels and God. It's almost as if God, at some point along the line, decided that he would just be a sperm donor. And he had lots and lots of angel children that never actually got to know their real father. And I think that that's kind of the relationship that Cass and God had. It's clear that Cass was somehow, I think, special to God because, for example, in the end of season 5, Cass is resurrected, and I think we can only assume that that was God that did that. But I also think that I thought about the very question that you're asking, and I felt like it was appropriate for that conversation to really take place between Lucifer and God and not Cass, because I don't feel like there's that real emotional history between the two of them. I think with Cass, it's more just this pervasive sense of abandonment. He was abandoned before he ever got to know his father, you know, which is hard in its own right, but probably not something that Chuck would have the patience to talk about. He could write him a letter. That might go a long way. Yeah. Thanks. Hi.
Hello. So this question ties into the last episode, but I'll state it in a way so it doesn't spoil anything. But what specific...
Who cares? It already aired.
Well, honestly...
Wait, aren't we allowed to spoil it now for people who didn't watch it?
Well...
Who comes to a Supernatural convention and doesn't watch the recent episode? What? Listen, everyone is yelling at me at once, and I don't know what you're saying.
The hotel doesn't have CW.
The hotel doesn't have the CW?
We have an app. There's an app.
Haven't you ever heard of pirating?
There's an app. There's an app. I like yelling.
Wow, I touched a nerve there. There's a drinking scene. There's a drinking scene. I'll tell you that. Cass drinks a lot. Cass gets drunk and makes a fool of himself.
Gotta be honest, I couldn't tell you much because I didn't watch the episode, but... but my friend did, and they gave me a very good
Hearsay
question.
now. All right.
So my question is, what specific event would have to occur to make Cass unbelievably happy?
Oh. Well, I'll tell you. What part of speech is Destiel? Like, is that a verb, a noun, an adjective? Like, what would have to happen to Cass, and people are yelling out, Destiel, like, what happened to you? Destiel. I know, I look terrible, I was Destiel. Well, I'll spoil it. Allow me briefly to spoil the episode for everyone, and then we'll get back to your question. There is a seed planted in the episode that if Castiel finds himself ever, quote, truly happy, that something terrible will happen to him. So, that's sort of...
Boo, boo, I hate Mike! I hate Mike. Quick, Billy, get out there and stop Mike from doing whatever Mike's gonna do. We hate Mike! We hate Mike! We hate Mike! We hate Mike! So sorry. Misha, this is his last show. I told him, I said, you step on that stage, this is your last show for the year. Am I, son of a bitch? You're not doing another con this year, dude. I told you not to come out on this stage. Christ. You try to train a robot to play bass. Yeah, I know. None of us are ready yet. This is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Is interrupt the magic that is a Misha Collins band. He gives so much of himself that he didn't want to bring last night's meal onto this stage. So he took a poop. A massive, plumbing ruining poop for you people, and you have the stones, the robotic stones to come out here. I'm sorry, I've had it. You were saying?
I love how you committed to that, even though it was going so far off the rails. No, doesn't matter. Once a joke starts, I'm going to finish it.
Well,
I don't care what people think.
When I realized it wasn't working, I thought to myself, why quit now?
You said yourself more.
I don't even know what we were talking about. Parts of speech. We were talking about nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. So what happy thing would happen? I don't think that we're not in any immediate peril of Castiel being happy about much of anything. Although, ironically, in the beginning of that episode, plug your ears, the scene where Cass gets drunk, he looked happier than I've ever seen him. Cass, by the way, what made it on, so basically we had to sit around that table and do this montage of the drinking scene forever. It felt like forever. We did so many takes of that. And we were, what's the phrase?
Drunk?
Fucking around. And just laughing and being stupid. And so there's all these takes of me with the candy bar just falling out of my mouth and laughing, and I was laughing, but it wasn't Cass laughing. That was Misha not being able to keep it together, and somehow made it into the episode. And now it's all of a sudden as soon as something really bad happens to a close friend, finally you can see Cass light up. That was the story that was told there. So yeah, maybe someone really close to him needs to die for Cass to really truly be happy based on that episode. Yeah, thanks for bringing out that painful subject.
Of course, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
I don't know, power through one more. Just come on, just do it. Come on, dude. Pretend like you care.
Hi. Last question.
Oh, hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
That's the last question. Everybody, it's been a great and wonderful meeting.
So Jensen and Jared have openly admitted to being intimidated by Mark Pellegrino.
By Mark Pellegrino?
Yes.
What they've said probably the same thing about me, right?
Probably. Whatever makes you happy, Misha.
I was just watching a video from 2 years ago when we were in Jacksonville, me, Jared, and Jensen. And I won't say that there was drinking involved, but we did wind up in Jensen's hotel room, and me and Jared wrestled for about 45 minutes. And
that was Jacksonville last time, right?
It was Jacksonville 2 years ago, yeah. And while we were wrestling, a lot of great decisions. Rob, you were there. A lot of great choices were made. I wound up, I should tell these stories. So,
Yeah, you should.
Jensen filmed the entire thing. And every once in a while, he busts out the old video of us wrestling, and it's very sloppy. There's some great shots of, like, I'm on top of Jared, like, trying to squeeze him, and Jared, like, it's just the messiest, ugliest wrestling match, but the entire time, we're arguing about politics. So, it's like this very measured, calm voices. We're like, yeah, but what do you think about, you know, Roe v. Wade and whatever, and like pressing each other, trying to, and there's a couple shots where you can see like the heel of my boot, I think was wearing the same shoes, like just landing right in his face. And we both had bruises on our faces when we went to work. I didn't go to work immediately because I woke up alone in Jensen's room and I was like, where the hell am I? And my plane had already left. Anyway, long story short, yes, they are intimidated by me. Wasn't really.
That's oh wow, that's where we were going, huh? All right.
Mark Pellegrino is intimidating. Yes.
So my question to you was, have you ever worked with an actress or an actor that you found to be intimidating, but it turns out they're just a big sweetheart?
Master Channel.
I don't want to answer this for you, but
No, I think that Benedict is initially very intimidating. He comes off as kind of hulking and brutish and
likes to punch the air and tap dance.
it's like he's just dripping with this machismo. And yes, that is him to the core. But when you get to know him, he does have these little flashes of humanity and nonviolence that occasionally come out. Yeah.
I can't wait to see one of those flashes one day. All I know is the lumber sexual that is Rob. The powerhouse. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him, you love him. You fall in love. That's it for Saturday. Now let's get ready for Saturday night, where these boys move over here.